That's the first Miata to ever win a race anywhere.
That's the first Miata to ever win a race anywhere?
That's one of the 3 cars that was shown in 1989 at the Chicago Auto Show.
What?
Serial number 17.
Really? Was it your car? Or was it a press car or something?
It was a press car. Well, no, the red and the blue one went in the press fleet. The white one went to dealer training, presumably because it wasn't as photogenic. And so I knew somebody who worked at Mazda, and I was racing sport compact cars in the San Diego region at the time with SCCA, and I was, kind of nationally competitive. And at the time, I think I was running a CRX Generation 2.
Okay.
Before it was cool to drive a CRX with a cage in it around town, I was
It's
driving
only
it.
barely cool
It's
now.
barely cool now, but when I was
it's
doing
cool
it,
if you're Andy Hollis.
Fast and Furious hadn't been invented yet, so I was just a weirdo with a CRX with a cage in it. So anyway, we started talking about this car, and I didn't know what it was because it hadn't been released yet, and this guy was a Mazda insider. But we put together a team to run it in a precursor to the World Challenge and the Escort Endurance Series. I don't remember who was sponsoring it at the time, but we were going to run it in that series.
As an as yet unknown car?
Well, I didn't know what it was yet.
Okay.
When we first started cooking this up. But then when I got the green light to go pick up the car, I had a dually and I had an enclosed fifth wheel trailer that I hauled my race cars around in. So I was the one who went up to Benicia at the time, where Mazda's training center was, and picked up the car. And I saw it for the first time when I walked in the door. Oh, that's what a Miata is.
Yeah, this pre-public seeing it ever.
No, Chicago had happened.
Okay.
But I don't know if they were on sale yet. This was late June of 1989.
So the mags hadn't quite cycled yet.
They might have had their embargoed stories written.
Yeah.
I don't really know the timing. I wasn't in the business at the time. I was working for the Department of Defense back then.
So wait, how do you get a pre-pro Mazda race car?
Because I was running, because it was a government job. I had a lot of time to race on the weekends because we had every other Friday off. And I was nationally competitive, and I knew people, just because, I don't know, I just knew this guy named Jim Jordan, who worked at Mazda at the time, and he knew about this car and knew the PR people, and so we got our hands on it. And then I brought it to Riverside International Raceway for the last race at Riverside in July of 1989. I think there were 2 last races, though. They had another one the next year because they got a reprieve and added a little pavement to get around the Mervyn's that was taking over turn 6. So anyhow, one of those last races at Riverside, I had the thing in my enclosed trailer, but nobody could see it except for certain people who could go in and look at it. But I was racing my Honda. And so anyway, we caged it up and then took it to Willow Springs to an SCCA driver's school, which Danny McKeever was the chief instructor at the time.
Who's that?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, no, kidding.
And he, you could rent time by just entering the driver's school, even though you weren't getting education.
Okay.
And you could test your car that way, as long as you stayed out of the way of the students.
That's funny.
So we did that. And with the cage in the car, we were suitably impressed, but didn't really have anything to go by, and we didn't have a hardtop yet. No, we did, but we hadn't figured out the bolt-on part. Anyhow, that was late 1989, so the logbook on that car is like August 1989 or something like that, whenever that was. And then 1990 was the year we were supposed to go race it, and the whole deal fell apart. The rules got changed. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it ended up staying in my enclosed trailer. And so everybody went their separate ways.
Did it stay there to the point of becoming annoying? Was it get this out of here, or was this, if I keep my mouth shut, eventually this is my car?
Well, it was, I didn't really think about it that way, because we didn't really even know if this was a car you wanted to race yet. Mm-hmm. Not really.
That's true. Did you take it out and drive it a little bit and go, oh my God, I love this thing? Like, how did you feel
Couldn't drive
about
it on the street.
Couldn't drive it on.
Never have driven it on the street.
Really? Not even like winky face, no. It's midnight.
Well, we unloaded it and drove it down onto the beach at La Jolla once for a photo shoot, and that was about it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And that was before we caged it, actually. So anyway, everybody went their separate ways. I ended up with a car. So February 1991 rolls around. The car is now a year old because SECA showroom stock, the car had to be a year old.
Oh, really?
That era. So I couldn't have raced it in showroom stock in 1990.
Why? Do you know why that rule existed?
I think they wanted to be able to size the vehicles up and see where they would classify them. And if they just went ahead and
let them run
classified a
some
brand
track
new
days first and see where the lap times look like or something.
There weren't even track days really to speak of like there are now, which is hard to imagine. But yeah, I don't know the policy because it didn't make sense to me at the time. So
wait, so there weren't track days? I mean,
there were like you could do the Alpha Club,
yeah,
or the Shelby
club related.
You could do a couple of those, but not too many. There was no Button Willow yet, I don't think.
When did they build that place?
I paid extra surpluses on my entry fees for years, as we all did, but I never raced there because yeah.
That's hilarious.
So that's a whole nother deal. But so this car, I brought it to Willow Springs for the first National of the year, and just slaughtered everybody. Took 2 or 3 seconds off the lap record. Just went so much faster than I thought.
What cars were you racing against at the time in that class?
There were MR2s and
that would have been first gen MR2s, right?
Yeah,
not
and they were
roundy
considered
ones?
really fast. Yeah, the first ones. Yeah, this is showroom stock C.
Okay.
So it's a 1.6 liter car with an open diff, and had to have the hard top on it, but they allowed you to remove the soft top so you could put a proper cage in there because the soft top's kind of in the way.
Yeah.
But they figured that the hard top would make up for the weight difference. They normally didn't allow any stripping of anything on a showroom stock car. The carpet's in there, the seat belts are in there. All that stuff. You have to use factory alignment. You got to use Mazda air filters and Mazda oil filters. You can't go off-brand. The only thing you could do is put tires on it, and the tires had to be DOT approved, but they're like 80 tread width. Yeah. And then you shave them and they go almost slick. So the tires are killer. So anyway, we brought this car out. I brought this car out there, and it was fast. And nobody else had run one yet. All the guys on the East Coast in Florida, Randy Popst and some others, they were running whatever they had run the last year. So, a FX16, I think one guy ran, and Honda Civic SI. And but I had the first Miata win and track records. And immediately there was just like a whole bunch of people just jumped on the car.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
Everyone
also
needs
argued,
a Miata now. And
they also argued it should be in showroom stock B, and there was a whole back and forth. But yeah, I went on to just win a bunch of races with that car the first year. And then the car, the picture in the dirt, the rallycross period, that was after I'd stopped racing it, and it sat in my garage in Arizona. By then I'd taken a job with Toyota, and I was working at the proving grounds, and I was living in a little town called Wickenburg, and that thing was just, had black widows crawling through it in my garage while I didn't race it. And then in 1999, my wife and I are coming back from Prescott, Arizona, where we'd had dinner, and we were driving down the hill, and we're following this beat up Volvo that's going like 35 and a 35, and this is a really fun road. Nobody does that, but this is like some weird beat up Volvo, but it's got stickers on it and these really oversized mud flaps, and we couldn't figure it out. And then I go around a corner, and there's a guy with a radar gun, but he's not a cop, and there's like an SCCA banner. I'm like, oh, this is the Prescott Forest Rally, and we're on transit stage. And so we followed the guy into the service park, and I got my hands on a rule book, and they were going to have rallycross the next year. So I took that thing as is with an open diff and the cage and just showroom stock suspension on it, and just put some rally tires on it that I got from one of the guys I met, and I won the rallycross championship with it that year. Yeah, it was amazing.